What's gonna... Hello. Wait. Okay, we're gonna do this intro together, yeah? Ready? Watch the camera. Stop watching Bob. Hi, Bob. You guys becoming friends now, huh? What's good? Can I do this? What's going on YouTube? My name is ADCArtAttack. His name is Bob. What's going on YouTube?
What's going on YouTube? My name is Kiba.
What's going on YouTube? My name is ADCArtAttack. His name is Bob. And his name, some troublemaker right here, is Kiba. Say hi to the camera. Was war das denn? And welcome back to a brand new episode in my cheap versus expensive YouTube series. Where today we are going to be comparing papers. That's got to be the most boring title ever. Don't worry, I'm going to be making this episode as exciting as possible because this is one of the most popular requests I have had, which paper to use. Now, I'm going to be breaking this down in several episodes. This first one comparing markers to certain types of papers. Maybe next time we'll use pencils. Maybe the time after that we'll use paints. I don't know just yet. We're going to see how this series works out and see what you think about it. So please do leave those comments down below. But yeah, today we're going to be seeing what types of papers work best with alcohol markers. So for the expensive side, we're going to be using this Strathmore Bristol board paper. In my opinion, one of the best papers on the market. Now, this does run a hefty cost of around $17, depending on where you are in the world for this particular pad, which comes with 20 sheets. So that's around $1.10 per sheet, which is not bad actually. It does, however, mean you don't want to be using this for rough tests. You kind of want to use this for just final pieces of art. And for the cheap side, we are going to be going with this. This right here is a sheet of cartridge or printer paper. Now, this is extremely cheap paper. You can buy, for example, 2,500 sheets of this paper for around $20. Maybe even less depending on where you are. I'm not even gonna try to work out how cheap that is per sheet, but it's a very, very low price for this. Now, I'm sure many of you watching this right now are saying this is a no-brainer. There is no way that that paper is going to even slightly compete with this paper. And to those I say, if that were the case, I wouldn't be making this video here today. Now, I should say, this video is subjective. Of course, it is based on my opinions, my personal preference, and my experience using these papers. But the purpose of this series is to show you that you don't always have to spend a lot of money to get great results. But at the same time, sometimes spending more money will yield better results. I have in the past used both of these papers. I never used them together, but I have used both of them for final pieces, and I've always been surprised by the results of cartridge paper. So I am very excited today to find out how they work side by side. This is going to be a really exciting episode, and I am very interested in the results. One quick question before we get started with today's video. I want you to leave a comment down below letting me know which one of these papers you think is going to win this battle. Then at the end of the video, I want you to leave a comment on which one of these papers is your favorite. I'm very interested to know whether we can change your mind throughout this video or whether we surprise you as we go. Let's go. Now, before we go diving into a full piece of artwork, let's take a closer look at our two competitors here today. Starting with cartridge paper. Firstly, this paper is translucent, meaning light passes through quite easily, and this can be a positive or a negative, something we will look into later on when we begin tracing. But as you can see, objects, even without a backlight, are easily visible under this paper. The paper thickness is not very much, at around 80 GSM, making this an extremely light paper, with it holding pretty much zero form, unable to stand under its own weight. So creases, folds, and even tears are much easier, and you'll need to be very careful with this paper. This paper features an extremely white surface, very artificial in appearance, but great for true white images. Now, unfortunately, this paper retains pencil even after erasing, depending on the pressure used. Therefore, if you plan to use pencil, keep it light. In terms of price, this paper is one of the cheapest and most accessible papers on the planet, making it a fantastic choice for drafting and pre-planning your art. Taking a look over at Bristol board, this is not a naturally translucent paper. Very few light passes through. Under normal conditions, objects are not visible without a backlight. The thickness of this paper is very high. Today's paper sits around 270 GSM. This places it in a unique category, almost as heavy as card, at around 350 GSM. Bristol board has many of the perks of card, such as the ability to hold its form under its own weight. Therefore, creasing, folds, and tears are not common and unlikely to occur under normal use. Now, the color of this paper is white with a slight yellowing, which is almost unnoticeable without direct comparison. It's quite a natural white and doesn't feel artificial. With regards to pencil, you can erase pencil almost completely depending on the amount of pressure you use, but under normal usage, you will be able to erase all pencil. Now, while this paper is extremely accessible, it does carry a higher, more premium cost, making it a choice for more refined final works. Okay, so before we actually get started with today's comparison, we need to get a drawing down. We need something here that we can use as a battleground for these papers. And today I figured we would use Naruto in his BARYON mode, a brand new mode that featured recently in the anime series. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about this mode. I just wanted to say that I really do like the character model, so I wanted to draw it, and that this drawing is not directly copied from anything. It's an original style drawing based off of BARYON references, so yeah, there's that. Also, this drawing was done as part of a live stream on ADCArtAttack Live. There'll be a link down below in the description if you would like to subscribe to my live channel. So with the drawing done, it is time to start inking. To do this, I'm going to be transferring this drawing onto two separate sheets of paper as we are reviewing papers today using my light pad. Now, a light pad is a piece of equipment that allows light to be emitted so that the thing underneath can be transferred to the thing above. It'll make sense in a moment. And usually I'm using one sheet of paper, but today I need to review papers, so we gotta use two, and I'm attaching them together in a kind of creative way here with sellotape so that I can fairly trace onto either sheet. And as we turn on the light pad, you'll notice that a lot more light is passing through the cartridge paper, so much so that it is incredibly easy to see the line work or the pencil underneath the sheet of paper. This is both a blessing and a curse. A blessing because in a well-lit room that isn't too dark, you are still able to see the pencil underneath. However, it's pretty bright. And if you don't have a light pad that allows you to adjust the brightness, it can be a little difficult to trace over this. The paper also has a little bit of graininess to it that you probably don't notice until you're using fine liners. So the inking isn't completely smooth and has some jaggedy edges. But with that comes a level of control that is actually quite pleasant to trace over. Now, as for the Bristol board, it doesn't allow as much light to pass through, so it's quite dark. And this is very good for dim lit or darker areas of your room if you are tracing. However, in a well-lit area, it's not too good. You won't really be able to see exactly what you're doing, so again, blessing and a curse. But one of the biggest strengths of this paper is how smooth it is to line work over. Now, it will require a little bit of practice to do this over such a smooth surface, but it does allow for much smoother and cleaner line work. If you can do it. It's really difficult. So for today's test, I'll be using my Winsor & Newton markers. Why? Because I love them. No, because they are one of the best markers on the market, but more importantly, they are easily the most versatile and work amazingly well on all paper types. So this makes them perfect for a fair test. So as we start using the markers, the first thing we are looking for is the bleed out. How much the colors of the markers move away from the point of contact. There's usually a lot of hate surrounding bleeding, with people grading paper based on its lack or excess of bleeding. Personally, I think it's definitely an opinion-based thing and subject to your own personal goals and desired outcomes. Say for example, I'm blending. I would rather not have smooth, precise blends. I want some controlled mistakes. Something that looks more deliberate and free. Now I understand, if you are going for a cel-shaded approach, you probably don't want bleed. That's a legit concern, so regarding cartridge paper, for what I want, I feel it adds a great level of bleeding. It's not totally uncontrollable, and in my opinion, it's an absolute treat to work with. So you'll notice I'm using a sheet of paper under this paper. There are a few reasons you absolutely must do this. The first is the most obvious. The paper does allow bleed through, so you will mark any object under this paper, particularly when layering. Single layers, you'll probably be okay. But if you're like me and you use a lot of markers, it's gonna get messy. Really messy. Another reason, if you hold this paper up, you'll notice a huge increase in how much we can see through the wet areas of marker. It can be extremely difficult to accurately assess your colors when wet on this paper. The extra sheet provides a more true color, but drying times are your friend here. Until the ink dries, you won't completely know how it'll look. So, take your time. Now for the blending aspect on this paper. Okay, so as we saw with the face, the skins blend fantastically well. In the small areas, things just work better on this paper. But also, they were skins. Skins are not perfect, so the less clean and precise, the more accurate I find it looks. However, in the larger areas, as we see with the reds, this is not perfect. The paper absorbs these markers extremely fast, and that causes problems when trying to obtain a smooth layer, even layer, of color. There's not much consistency, and blending is far less controllable. But it is also worth noting that I am not trying to create a masterpiece here, and I'm also trying to keep to the strengths of the papers. But in large areas, it's just not great. I could change the style of this character and make the cape look more detailed, but we already have small detailed areas, so I want to focus on how it handles the large areas. Alright, so here we have our cartridge paper Naruto done. It's not a perfect piece of art. The paper definitely struggled to keep up in those large areas of coverage, but the smaller areas were handled pretty well with some nice blends, some great texture, and a solid performance. We did experience some bleed out in some areas, particularly those with a lot of layers. This is unfortunately very common with this paper, but so far I am very, very happy. So we're going to move on to the Bristol board side now, and I'll do another overview of this paper at the end of the video, expanding on a few points. But for this side, we are going to match the same style. So no fancy effects, no extra details that I could completely take advantage of this paper and do, but I want to keep it fair. If I were creating something beyond this comparison, I certainly would do something different, but as it's a comparison, we are using the exact same colors, the exact same style, and let's see if we achieve different looking results. Now, one thing that is immediately noticeable is the massive difference in bleed out. This paper is reliable. The colors stay close to the point of contact. Anything that goes outside of the lines that you see me do here is purely down to me. there's absolutely no chance these markers are bleeding out of the lines on their own accord. And this is fantastic with those tight areas such as in and around the face. Of course, as we said before, the bleeding on the cheaper side was very useful for the skins, but having control over the markers is just as important. And they blend incredibly well. In fact, so well, and the layering is so good that we could use way more tones and colors here. Of course, I am limiting the amount I use because of the previous paper, which would most definitely not have allowed more layers. So I had to hold back quite a lot. So if you wanted smoother blends, more depth, it's well within your grasp with this paper. But should it be required? That's the question. Should I require more colors, more markers to get equal amounts of blending and, I guess, smoother blending as the other side? That's what we're going to find out. Now even this early on, as we look at the two of them side by side, we see that the Bristol board is retaining a lot more of the color from the markers. The colors don't appear as washed out, so you're getting your money's worth in the markers you choose when using this paper. As it comes to the larger areas, however, we have a sort of opposite issue that we had on the previous side. The coverage is amazing. The markers are able to glide across this paper for a smooth, even color. That's not an issue if it was just one color. However, when it comes to the blending, due to the fast drying times of this paper and the lack of bleeding, blending is a much bigger challenge. You see, the smaller areas are quick to color, so they're still wet and able to be worked with. But in the larger space, by the time we get around to the next color, our previous one has already dried. Of course, there are workarounds to this, and by adding other details and effects, we can make something even better. But to be fair, I am mimicking the styles for both, and unfortunately, I just can't get it as clean as the other side. So there we have it, everyone. Here are the results of today's cheap versus expensive paper edition. What do you think of these two sides? What do you think of the drawing side by side? Do you like it? Do you love it? Let me know in a comment down below. Now, today's one is a difficult one because we had some heavy limitations on both of these sides, and the results, well, let's take a closer look and see what we think. Looking at the cartridge paper first, at a close look, we see bleeding outside of the edges, we see washed out colors, and we see pretty smooth blends actually. This paper is a joy to work with. The fact that precision is certainly not the objective when using this paper provides a sense of ease while working and allows you to just enjoy the creating process. There's no pressure, but to be honest, the results are still pretty good. The only major limitations to be had here are how many layers of colors you can use. You are heavily limited in the amount of colors you can use here. Really nice coverage in the large areas, beautiful details on the face, a classic paper with a classy finish. Taking a look at the Bristol board. This is going to be controversial. I held back a lot. I didn't use more colors. I didn't change the style. Even though I absolutely could have, and the paper would have allowed for a much higher detailed drawing than the other side, I wanted to mirror the sides to just compare the paper, not the results of the art itself. In small areas, this paper is incredible with no bleeding and beautiful blends. You can pretty much work in any style you wish. In larger areas, we can obtain a smooth, even coverage. However, if you wish to blend in large areas, you will unfortunately need to find a solution. This is due to the pen's drying times being extremely fast. The paper is still for me one of the greatest papers and most versatile for any style you choose. It has its limitations, but it will always allow for maximum quality and results of the markers you use upon it. That being said, Bristol board is definitely more suited to higher detailed pieces of artwork with a lot of color and smaller refined areas than larger areas. If you want smoother blends over large areas, cartridge paper, that'll be your friend. With that all being said, looking at the two here today, this is difficult. In my heart, I know which paper is superior. I know Bristol board is more versatile. I know I can use pencils over the markers, something I can't with cartridge paper. I know that if I pick a color, I will get that color on the paper. And there's no limit to the layers I can add or the colors I choose. But cartridge, I prefer the look I got here today using these markers. So, which is worth it? Cartridge paper at like 0.01 cents per sheet, or Bristol board at around $1.10 per sheet. I've honestly never been this stuck. I know I prefer Bristol board, and had I chose a different art style, it would have excelled. But based on the price, based on the results of today's given style, I don't know, I just think that art isn't always about the results. Sometimes it's about the process. And I enjoyed the freedom, the lack of precision, the fun of using this paper. And that is why cartridge paper is my winner here today. So there you have it everyone, the video is complete and I do hope you enjoyed yourself here today. If you did like the video, then consider liking the video, but most importantly, I do hope you learned something here today. Hopefully I was able to help you in making the choices as to what paper is best for you and your goals when using alcohol markers. I'd also like to know what you thought about today's format of the video and of course the theme. Grading paper, comparing papers, did you like it? Was it exciting? Was it as good as doing markers and stuff? I don't know. I guess you want more Kiba as well, right? So I'll sort that out for the next video. Until next time, my name has been ADCArtAttack. His name, all the way over there, oh Lord, is Bob. And we look forward to seeing you all again in the next video. Till next time, stay safe, stay healthy. I'll see you again. Bye. Ah.